I'm talking about expectations, joining us via telephone to speak on what Nigerians should expect from the cabinet reshufflement is an investment analyst, Niyi Akinsiju. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to join you this morning.
Great. Some will say it's a long time coming. Some will say it took some time. Some will say it is the right time. What would you say motivated this decision, particularly at this particular point in time?
I think it's about 15 months into the new administration. By whatever standard you want to look at it, a relatively new administration. But I think it talks more to the character and personality traits of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. First, as a hands-on administrator, to be able to take this decision early enough in his administration. I think, well, it depends on, we've had an administration where most of the cabinet members were sustained for sometimes near 2 terms in office, especially of the last administration under General Buhari. That was his own attitude, But with President Tinubu, I think there's another attitude, in the public space. To a large extent, I think what the president has done is to structure and align the cabinet along his core vision. And if you look at the basic, or rather the ministries that were addressed in this reshuffle, you will see a near familiarity. If you relate it with his renewed hope agenda, the core administrative structure, that would realize or crystallize the intentions and the programs of those of the renewed hope agenda, you will see a connection. For instance, we see the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs having a substantive minister now after a layback period. You see the reinforcement of the Finance Ministry. You see reinforcement of the Trade, Investment and Industry Ministry. You see reinforcement of the Housing Ministry. You see a new ministry, the Ministry of Regional Development, that talks principally to the fact that indeed the federal government has intention of direct intervention in regions of the country, in the 6 regions of the country, through the regional commissions. So, for me, I think what the president is trying to do is to quickly update and strengthen the vision that will connect to the crystallization of the renewed hope agenda.
Okay, aside these objectives that you've clearly spelled out as some possible reasons for this reshufflement, we also know that the president coming into office has established a performance monitoring unit. Could also information from that, assessment from that, could that have also impacted this decision? And going forward, what should such units be doing more to ensure that Nigerians get to feel the impact that is needed for that development that Nigeria kind of is waiting for?
Yes, the president didn't make it well. It is actually a public form of engagement that the president had with his minister, announcing, I think about 2 or 3 months into his government, that the ministers will be monitored and evaluated, and at the right time, they will be given their report cards. What we are seeing is actually the outcome of that unit in the presidency. The unit has been at work essentially, and we are seeing, though some of us may disagree, some of us would agree with some of the decisions taken about those who are to leave, have monitored the space, the media space, and of course the social media space, and I've seen a lot of diverse and divergent opinion on some ministers out of the 5 that were relieved, a number that shouldn't have gone, a number that should have gone, and that in fact, even in the cabinet, as those sustained, there should be a number of them that should have gone. But I think the unit and the president himself would have been availed of critical and strategic information more than that they may be or there may be in the public space. So I think we need to give the president and that unit the benefit of the doubt because of the information, the kind of information that they would have. But what is essential is that there is fluidity in the administration by the fact that there is a constant evaluation, of performance, and to a large extent, we can see the outcome of that evaluation. What we feel or what we see as outsiders to the administration, to the cabinet, may be contraposition to what has been done, but to a large extent, I believe that the fact that the president is attending to certain ministries and focusing on them by, of course, engaging new characters, new personnel into that space, removing them, and of course reshuffling, because not just about removal, it's also about reshuffling, which is to say that some ministers have been evaluated and considered to be better for other ministries, and that's why they are reshuffled. The important thing at the end of the day is to have a service-oriented, service-delivered, process to the Nigerian people.
Okay, let's look at the new ministry, talking about regional development. Yes, there has been the conversation about the states, that's the subnationals, the local governments, given so much support for them to grow those governance. It lets people feel governance at that particular level. How does this impact to the regional development communications? Yes, we've had some that have been in existence. Recently, we had new ones coming on board. How would this impact on governance at the regions?
Well, I think the philosophy underpinning this decision is to say, let us take governance and government, as an institution nearer to the people. The federal government is seen as both distant and near. Distance in terms of geography, in terms of distance, wherever you are in the Nigerian space, the perception is that the federal government is in Abuja, and that cannot be less than 600 kilometers from wherever you are in the Nigerian space. So, to a large extent, you have that physical distance. But again, there is also that consciousness of the responsibility of the federal government to the Nigerian people wherever they are. So much that even if somebody's water is not running in the house, he or she holds the federal government responsible for what are not running. If he steps out of his door and he steps onto the street and the roads are bad, he holds the federal government responsible, and so on and so on. You get even schools, primary schools that are not ordinarily supposed to be under the purview of the local government. Most Nigerians, because of lack of understanding of that relationship, hold the federal government responsible. So now that the federal government has decided to take, its administration and its presence into that space through the regional development ministry, I think to a large extent, the people will start feeling, the intervention, because it's principally an interventionist institution as it were now. So the people, wherever they are, Nigerian people can start relating and referencing particular projects, and other forms of service delivered directly to the federal government. So it is closing the geographical gap and the perception change of the federal government with the Nigerian people wherever they are to a large extent. I think it is good. And if we are able to properly, if the states especially are able to properly motivate and activate the functionality of the local government so that the people feel governance at the local government, the world level, you see more trust, growing, developing between the Nigerian people and the federal government. In fact, at all tiers of government, because what is important to the Nigerian people is to be able to evidence, what government is doing at whatever level. So, and that will be the basis for the growth and development of trust, and that will fill to a large extent the trust deficit that characterizes the relationship between the Nigerian people and the government at all levels.
Thank you very much, Niyi Akinsiju, for your deep insights, while Nigerians look forward to a better performance this time. Thank you for your time.